So we get comfortable, find our posture, take some lovely, deep, calming breaths, and release tension as we do so. And we're going to do a short meditation just for about 10 minutes on compassion this morning, for you this morning, for me this evening. But before we do that, we're just going to spend a couple of minutes following the breath, allowing ourselves to settle, the mind to settle, and to let go of any plans you have for the day or anything you brought with you mentally, emotionally, and allow yourself some spaciousness for a very positive state of mind. So become aware of your breath in your body, in the rise and fall of your chest in particular. And the presence of your heart center in the center of your chest, level with your physical heart. The famous Thich Nhat Hanh quotation is, "The longest journey we ever make is from our head to our heart." Perceiving the world from a place of love and compassion. Focusing on others rather than the self. This doesn't diminish our rationality, but it does increase our intuition and feeling for others. So visualize at this heart a beautiful, a jewel or a lotus or a Buddha seated there on a white moon cushion. Whatever for you arises spontaneously that symbolizes this love and compassion. And feel it as warmth and purity. And let it send out rays of light throughout your body. So we start with ourselves, filling ourselves with love and compassion for our own state of being. Valuing ourselves. Feel that light go down to the tips of your toes, through to your fingertips and up to the crown of your head, flushing you with a glorious sense of well-being. And really generate that love and compassion for yourself. You want yourself to be happy. You don't want yourself to feel suffering. And of course, you want to know how to make this happen. And then with this sense of well-being, send the light out through the pores of your skin in any direction you wish, to a nation, to a town, to a family, to an individual. Focus your love and compassion outward. You want them to be happy and free from suffering. And then become more refined in your focus And think of somebody who you've fallen out with, you're having problems with, and send them love and compassion, especially. Even if you cannot like them, you can love them. Because just like you, they sometimes go the wrong way about finding happiness, and they suffer. So melt all these beings into light and draw them into your heart. Draw all the light in so it's intense, bright, and beautiful. And you feel open-hearted. And your selfishness is subdued. And you are able to expand your thoughts and feelings outwards towards others. And dissolve all visualization and come back to your breath. And when you're ready, you can end your meditation. Thank you. Okay, yes, Maka. I'm glad you're here, Maka. I think it was you who raised the idea of pets, having problems with people with pets last week, which prompted me to introduce the concept of using compassion to work with our aversion for those with attachments to things like pets. So we're still looking at the old ego here and what it gets up to, all its tricks. So we're still focusing on that idea. And I hope you found that in the meditation, sometimes, you know, we don't have to rationally approach a topic. We can just feel it. And doing a meditation which brings us down to our heart, focuses on light, sending light, expanding our heart in any way is a way of just subduing the ego in a very beautiful way without having to think about it, without having to think about the concept of emptiness, for example, which is the rational approach. So what I thought I would do is for, 10, 15 minutes or so before I open it up and hopefully share some ideas with you is to look at this idea, because Maka, I'm saying Maka, I'm presuming it is Maka. I've got the right name, yes, because it says that on your iPad. I think parents are guilty of this too, but perhaps with parents, we're more understanding. So we were talking about how, if you're not a dog person yourself in particular, how difficult it is to be around so many people, perhaps more than ever. It certainly feels it in England, and possibly during lockdown, that a lot more people got dogs, yeah. And I don't know if they're still keeping them, but basically, if I look at where I live, I'm surrounded with people who have a dog. So, and we can find, those of us who don't have dogs, it very difficult because they can bark a lot. They can jump at you, run at you. They seem to be smelly, have smelly breath. They seem to slobber. They don't seem to be clean. They want to lick you. You know, we can go to all these lengths to think of the difficulties of being around people with dogs. But of course, the people who have dogs, they especially don't see that with their own. Yeah. They might see it with other people's dogs and think, oh, that's not very well behaved, or not well trained, or needs a bath, or whatever. But particularly with their own, it's like there's a blind spot. So now I want to bring in parents here and their children, because to be honest, there's no difference. You know, you have your children and you see them and you just think they're wonderful, especially when they're small, you know. And when you go into somebody's house and they run riot and they knock things over, you might laugh a little bit and say, oh, look at them, they're so playful. Or they might push somebody over and go, well, he's just very strong-willed, and we'll find all the excuses in the world to justify our own children's behavior. And I can remember, as guilty as anybody else, but being with other parents but noticing, probably from a Buddhist perspective, that everybody was looking at their own children. So you go to watch the nativity and you're just waiting for those 3 minutes when your child is up there doing their bit. And that's all you're there for. And they seem to fill the stage. And even though they're just, you know, at the back on the left, and you can just about see their face, that's all you can see, because the mind is focusing on our own. And we see them as being, you know, we might think, oh, you know, they were really shy, or else we might think, oh, weren't they wonderful? They're definitely the best dancer. Why haven't they been chosen to have the main part? Yeah. Why did, and you hear about this as well from primary schools, especially if it's a private school and the parents are paying. You know, there'll be a lot of pressure from the parents for their little Johnny or their little Jenny to have a star role, or to be up there and to be praised and to have the best outfit and all of this. And really, they don't care particularly about other people's children. It's their children. So this is kind of normal. And this is definitely normal behavior. And this is the perfect example of attachment, because they would say, well, it's because I love my dog. It's because I love my child. But if we look deeper, we can see that for sure there's love there. But they are identifying with the dog, for instance, or the child. It's their ego that they really love, because they identify that child is a part of me. That dog is a part of me. And if anybody says anything about my child or my dog, I really identify with that as a mother. You know, I was like a tigress. If anything happened to my children at school, boom, I'd be down there, you know, or on the phone, or what's happening, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you can't take care of all the kids. That I absolutely get that. But the way in which it affects you, you lose objective reality. You lose it because you identify with it. Your stomach churns up, and you just want what you believe to be part of you to be okay. Yeah. So that is really an incredible opportunity to see attachment at work and how the ego identifies with those we love. Yeah. So what we're doing in Dharma practice, in Buddhist practice, is we're not reducing the love for our children or our pets. We're not doing that, but we're just understanding that they are a part of all sentient beings around us. So when we generate compassion like we did in that meditation, we're going, hold on, you know, yes, if I have love and compassion for me, then I know I have strong attachments. And therefore, when I generate compassion, especially for that person I had the argument with, you know, because their dog crawled all over me. We're using Maka's, you know, example here, just as an example. When we do that, we're recognizing that they have a deluded view of reality. That's what, and they think that their pet or their child is a part of their identity. And if anybody attacks it, what we're doing is we're attacking them. We're attacking them. Yeah? Anybody attacks my child, you're attacking me. Which is why you get, you know, a lot of families, you know, mafia type situations, if you like, where families will go, you know, we can, nobody says anything about my family because my family is me. I can moan about my brother or my sister, but if anybody outside my family moans about my brother or sister, I'm not happy because they're attacking me. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're such children, really, but I mean, you know, it's a tough life. So going back to this, the pet thing, identifying with your dog, what do you do in that situation? Because, you know, we don't want to be jumped at. We don't want to be licked. We don't, you know, but at the same time, we've got to understand that we've got to be incredibly skillful not to create more problems, which is what happens. So if your children are, and I've been through this with my kids and my friends' kids, you know, if your children are having a row, if you go, you know, it's your child's fault, then you're going to create a conflict. Whereas if you go, they're having an argument, so-and-so seems to think this, I don't know, they must be upset, and you're kind of rational about it, and you don't take necessarily the whole part of your child, but realize your child is part of it, then there's less likely to be conflict. So what do you do in a situation? What happened was Maka used a word which seemed like a criticism, yeah? And so her friend immediately defended her dog, yeah? That's what happened. That's all that happened. She experienced it as a criticism. It's like if I said to one of my kids' friends, I mean, they're in their 30s now, for goodness sake, but my granddaughter, she's 12. I've seen her, I've seen her being bullied, and I've felt in myself how I really had strong aversion to the girls who were bullying her. Yeah. And I thought if I saw them, I'd give them a real mouthful. Because you rise up, the fire comes within you. But fortunately, either I didn't see them because, I'm apart. I'm not the parent, but I can feel myself also coming behind my son, who is the parent. That pressure, we can put pressure on there. Why do you let them treat her like this? And that creates problems as well, because then the parent, your son or your daughter, they feel criticized. So if anybody feels criticized because of their attachment to something as beloved, as close as a child or a pet, something they put lots of attention on, because that gives them lots of love. It's that's going on, isn't it? They're getting so much from that child or that dog. They're getting so much that if it's under attack, then there's a huge feeling of aversion. If somebody does that, then we have to really employ what we call in Buddhism skillful means. The skillful means, which is not so easy. And if we do overstep the line, then afterwards, then the ability to apologize or to make up for it, or when you next see the child or dog, try to have a positive attitude towards it, which is not easy. It's really not easy because, I've known some kids, as soon as they walk in the door, I'll feel aversion for them because of something I know they've done towards my child. It's very powerful. It's the greatest opportunity we have for destroying attachments, for subduing the ego and generating compassion. So if in our meditation we do what we just did in that meditation, was focus on them, it will help us because it's softening our attitude. It's just softening out that hard-edged aversion and going, well, okay, they're a bit lonely. They've got this dog. It's an absolute pain in the bottom, but that gives them pleasure. Poor old thing. And then you think, poor animal doesn't know any different. It's not being trained. I've actually had one of my friends say to me, you don't like dogs, do you? I go, it's not that I don't like dogs. It's just that I have problems with the owners who don't train the dogs. Yeah. Because they let them just do whatever in your home or around you. There's nothing more difficult than seeing a dog come running towards you and knowing they're going to sniff at you. And we all know where they're going to sniff at you. Yeah. And your hands go down, don't they? And you try to push the dog away and they're laughing, and it's as if they don't see it at all. It doesn't mean anything. But for you, it's just the worst thing. Yeah. So we all know, we all have that experience, and yet they're blind to it. They're blind because of strong attachment based on strong identification with something that they get a lot of love from, and makes their ego, massages their ego, yeah, makes their ego feel nice and at ease. Now, it's not always going to be like that because, the dog will get old or the dog will die or whatever. perhaps even more so with a child who grows into a difficult teenager and then a stroppy adult or whatever, we might change our views. And then we know, I mean, I know as a grandparent, I adore my children, but I've got a real soft spot for my grandchild, yeah? Different relationship now. They're not those adorable little things I could control that were a part of me. They've got their own identities. Yeah? And when that shift takes place into own identity, it's very challenging for a parent, isn't it? They're no longer under your control. They're doing their own thing. They're thinking their own thoughts. They're rejecting you on many occasions, or your way of life, or how you've lived. And you're kind of going, hang on a minute, I've given up my whole life. I've sacrificed so much for you. But no, they're not going to see that. That's not going to happen. They're kind of on their own path. No matter if you have, wonderful relationships with your children. I have good relationships with my children, but sometimes it's not the same as when I lived with them and they adored me. Mummy was on a pedestal, yeah? Mummy is definitely not on a pedestal now. We went to visit a hospice on Sunday, which has opened a lovely cafe, and my daughter was rather concerned. She said, aren't there just going to be dying people in the cafe? I said, it's not for the dying people, it's to raise money, it's for the public. So when we went in there, I said, isn't it beautiful here? And my daughter turned to me and she said, would you like to come here later? I said, well, I'm not quite ready for that yet. It's not a care home, it's a hospice, and I'm not even ready for a care home. But you can see them starting to think, what they're going to do when mum gets to that point. Where are we going to put her? And I said, well, it's a nice place, but we're a long way away from that yet. And she said, well, I prefer your idea of you walking out into the sea, because I said, if ever I got dementia, I'd just walk out into the sea. And I said, well, yes, it does sound very romantic, but the reality is, well, first of all, I definitely need a wetsuit. So I'm just diverging here. But you can see how things change. There's impermanence in our lifetime. How many, dogs do we go through? How much do we have these strong identifications, and then they change and we identify with something different? Lots of older people replace their children with dogs, or people who can't have children get dogs instead. And you could say this is actually to do with a very strong wish to nurture and look after, which is lovely, which is, a very caring aspect of humanity. But also, I would like to say that we need to fill holes in samsara. And we fill holes sometimes with objects that increase our delusions. So if we're going to have a pet, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But just finishing off this discussion we had with Maka at the end last week, if you're going to have one, then we need to be aware of why and our relationship with them, in the same way that we need to be aware of our relationships with our loved ones. I love the way Kim's husband, comes in and gives you a nice cup of tea. Okay, well, I think let's open this up, shall we? We've lost the telephone. I don't know who that was. A mysterious onlooker, unless you know, Lou. So open up your mics. No, don't know. Open up.
Don't know who it was. Oh,
you do?
I don't, sorry.
You don't? No. Okay. Okay, so how are we doing with this? And anything you want to add? Maka, did I hit the spot, or have you still got questions?
I liked what you said, and the term identify, that's the part that the way people identify with their pets. So if somebody's coming along with a dog and I don't go crazy about the dog, it's like I'm not going crazy about them. And
yes,
but if I go crazy about the dog, then they know that I like them, and then they're happy.
Yes.
And maybe, I don't know, it's kind of maybe going down a rabbit hole, but perhaps it tells me a little bit about that person, you know, and just in terms of our Buddhist model and thinking about people that are less attached or more mindful, or, you know, a little bit more on the path or whatever, right? And I'll just tell you another story. So I have another friend who got a puppy, and he likes to hunt. He's in Montana. He likes to hunt. So he got this dog. It's a breed that's like a retriever. It's supposed to go and get the duck after you shoot the duck. It's supposed to bring the dead duck back to you out of the lake.
Yes.
But it's just the dog is totally out of control, and it leaps on people, and it just. I go to visit it sometimes, and he can see how annoying the dog is. He's not identifying with the dog totally. And he told me one story. So he takes his truck into town every once in a while, and he puts the dog in the truck. And I guess he kind of ties the dog, but the dog's in the truck and the window's down. And he just laughs. He said, yeah, he said, 2 times I went back to my truck after I was in the store, and the dog's like hanging there off the mirror from the leash. And I thought the dog's going to die from hanging itself. And he just laughs, you know, because if the dog did hang itself because it's like going crazy and leaping at people, you know, he wouldn't be so offended, right?
No. So he's not identifying with the dog, because part of him is actually experiencing how irritating the dog is. But what's happening in that situation is actually he is not taking responsibility for the dog. And there's no compassion for the dog, because the dog's going crazy because the owner hasn't trained the dog.
Yeah, and we talked about that too. Like, he's in a rural area, right?
Yeah.
Because we'll take the dogs to dog school, and they learn ways to train them, and he hasn't done that.
No. But this is where compassion comes in strongly. When we see situations like that, it's just like, you can't do anything about it, or maybe if you have a kind of relationship with them, you can point them in the right direction. But all we can do is, like with your friend, is just have compassion for their situation.
Yeah.
There's nothing else that you could do, which is why that's such a valuable tool. I mean, we can definitely, you know, rationalize and look at and use it as a way of reminding ourselves of emptiness, and how that deals with ignorance, and that ignorance is the thing that is creating the ego that wishes to identify with attachments, and hence have aversions, you know, like getting cross with you because you don't like the dog. That's the root, isn't it? That's what we're working with. But in the situation, in the moment, the most powerful tool perhaps is compassion. And then you can think, well, they've helped you.
Right.
You can see with your Dharma wisdom, and
Right.
you generate compassion, and therefore they've helped you, you know.
Right.
How about Kim and Barbara? Does this relate to? Does this make sense for you? Is there anything about it you want to ask?
It definitely makes sense to me. And I know something that has really helped me since becoming a Buddhist is I used to differentiate people from animals.
Hmm.
There was a difference, there was a hierarchy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't do that anymore.
No, that's brilliant.
And I look at, I look at that could be my mom. My mom's mind could be in that dog. And
Yeah.
it's a belief that I have. And that really has been much more equalizing
Yes.
for me. Now, there are some animals that I haven't gotten that point to that point with, but it's really made a difference for me.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful psychological tool, whether you believe it or not, actually, to see that all beings could have been your mother or somebody close to you, because you are totally equalizing, and that is the result of this psychological tool, which it is. I mean, yeah, it's not that we disbelieve it. I'm just saying that even if you're not a Buddhist, you can see that the result of seeing everybody as your mother means you would treat everybody differently. You know, you wouldn't dismiss most of the population of the 8 billion they've decided now, haven't they? 8 billion people of us. That's just people. And then with all the other beings as well, you wouldn't dismiss all of them for just a very small amount of people and animals that you have affection for. Do you know that wonderful story about the old Tibetan woman who was walking along the road, and a monk or something was following, and he kept hearing her. He couldn't see what was going on, and she was going, "Come on, dear mother, come on, mother, you'll be fine, come on." Look, he couldn't see any other beings. And then when he got up close, he saw that she was talking to a scorpion who she was encouraging to cross the road so that it wouldn't get run over by whatever. Lovely story, because, you know, but if you call beings your mother, come on, mother, you're going to treat them a bit differently. You see them in a different way. Yeah. Nice story. That always struck with me. And I always try, you know, if there's wasps or things like that, that's probably our equivalent over here is a wasp, you know, to kind of think, well, come on, mother, go on, get away from me. You know? Just sort of more gentle, a gentler approach, a recognition. Yeah. How about you, Kim? Go on.
Well, yeah, it reminds me of a billboard that was posted a couple of years ago, fairly widely in this country. And it showed a pig on one side and a dog on the other side. And simply put, one we pet and one we eat. And again, just to show the difference in
Yes.
how we value some animals more than others, or some people more than others. And it's all the same, but one we love and one we eat.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's very powerful.
Yeah, that is powerful. Yeah.
May I ask you another question, Ondy? Totally off topic.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go on, go for it.
Well, I think today being La Bab Dachin,
Yes.
and I was reading that merit is increased, I think, by 1 million.
100 million.
100 million. I don't
Yeah,
know where
aren't we lucky? Look what we're doing. And we're talking about, and you know, this is the day when the Buddha taught his mother. So
right.
what an appropriate subject, huh?
So, I mean, Andy, just an arbitrary number that's kind of tossed out to maybe uh, that we would be more motivated to practice.
Do you know,
In
sometimes I think it's the opposite. Sometimes I think it's so difficult to practice on those days due to the power of the lunar effect on, for us to be emotional. I've thought about this because sometimes it's like, you know, that's a tough day, difficult things happen, and we are more emotional. And therefore, if we are very constructive on that day, then that's incredible merit. Incredible merit. And for me, it's always been a mystery, these particular days, you know, why they are so
Yeah.
meritorious, but it's always good to remember they're there and to try to create more merit on that day for any reason, really, as far as I'm concerned. You know, it just gives you a day for focusing your energy. But yeah, any Lama will very, very seriously say, because it was related to the Buddha's deeds, we are not separated at all from that. Universally, cosmically, we're connected. And therefore, if they did a meritorious deed on that day, it's a bit like a birthday, I suppose, isn't it? You know, we always celebrate that. And if we celebrate it in a positive way, our merit is increased. So definitely dedicate the merits of this session.
Yeah. 100 million times.
100
Yes, I love that.
I think it's 100 million. Anyway, it's a lot.
So. Yeah, it's a big number.
No, I can't see Linda, but I'm hoping you're benefiting from this. Are there any questions that you have? So we have 10 more minutes. And if Lou, are you okay? Have you got any questions or comments?
I have one off-topic question,
Yeah.
and it had to do with the meditation, and it's just something I've noticed. The heart center, working with the heart center, inviting people in. I've only seen that with 3 different teachers. They were all lay teachers. I've never seen anybody who was like a monk or a nun or an official teacher bring up the heart part of it, you know, working with your heart center. Yeah. I was wondering if there's a reason for that.
I don't know. I don't know, because teachings that I've had, I can't say they were from lay people, because the practices you do, like Tara, Green Tara and Chen Reisig, you know, you visualize them, kind of Kriya yoga, and then you bring them down and you manifest them at your heart. Yeah, it's a sort of
I understand that, but it's the way you talk about the heart center, as if it's a place you invite somebody in, sit down, have a cup of tea. It's an intimate kind of relationship that's taking place in your heart.
Yes. And you haven't heard anybody who is I don't know.
To talk about it that intimately. I mean, talking about the heart chakra on a sutra level or technical level, but not a human kind of level.
Okay. I can't answer that. It's a practice I feel I've absorbed from many teachers, and that you do practices to open up the heart. So whether often in secular practice, rather than using a Buddha, you'll use, you know, something like light source. So that's where it gets changed, I guess. when people, perhaps lay people, are talking from a secular point of view. For instance, with this this practice that I do with you, be your own therapist, my guidance was that anybody could come, so not necessarily all Buddhist. I mean, my experience is there's a lot of Buddhism, you know, in the group, but I don't take that for granted. So therefore, rather than using a deity or the Buddha, I will suggest a lotus or a diamond or a precious jewel at the heart center.
That makes sense now. I can understand it now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what we have to understand is that Tibetan Buddhism uses very specific imagery and practices through long lineage, you know, an incredible lineage from the Buddha himself to open and work with our minds. But that is ultimately what we're doing, whichever tradition we align to, you know, whether it's as a Christian mystic or a Hindu or a different kind of Buddhist, what we're all trying to do, you know, is open up the heart and actually use meditation to move away from the ego-centered view to the heart. So yeah, if it was a Tibetan Buddhist class, you would be specifically using that imagery, yeah, because you're part of that lineage and you're working with that, and that's your daily, you know, the daily methods that you're utilizing. But with secular, you can use Tibetan Buddhist imagery, but if it doesn't fit with you, there are other ways. And we're all, you know, going up the mountain slightly different paths, aren't we? Yeah. So yeah, you can be your own therapist without subscribing exactly to Tibetan Buddhist techniques, which is what, you know, the idea of this class is, to be more open. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Okay, well, we've just got 5 minutes. Shall we just do a nice dedication, considering that we have talked about that and it is a special day? Yeah, let's do that. Take a few deep breaths and just generate this wonderful feeling of happiness. As we started the session by doing a meditation where we wanted ourselves to be happy, to generate love, and to be free from suffering, to generate compassion, first of all for ourselves. And let's just look at what discussing and practicing the Dharma has done for us, how we feel at the end of 1 hour. And how we feel towards others. And if we too could teach our mother, wherever they might be now, what an incredible opportunity that would be to give them love and compassion. So wherever she is, and whatever she's meant to you, maybe we can do that together. Our mothers in this life, thank you. May you be happy and free from suffering. And all the mothers we've ever had in all our lives, fill the space. thank you. May you all be happy and free from suffering. And to all our incredible teachers, going way, way back to the example of the Buddha, who rose into Tushita pure realm to teach his mother. May we all become Buddha too. Thank you. We dedicate the merits of this session to our quick enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be separated from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for some and aversion for others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that lovely opportunity. And just before you go, I have some news. I don't know how many of you live in Santa Fe, but I'm going to come to be resident teacher there for February.
Oh, wow.
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 Oh,
Wow.
I'll get to meet some of you, I hope, in the flesh.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Haven't quite bought my ticket, but
great.
nearly there, nearly there.
That is
Yeah.
fabulous. That is
Yes,
just fabulous.
I was
Ondy.
invited and I thought, well, you're such lovely people and I would like a month in Santa Fe. That would be nice. So I come for February, all being well. So anyway, but before that, I'll see you next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ondy.
Have a
Thank
lovely
you
day.
so much.
Thank you
Thank
all.
Bye.